Every Clone Trooper Variant Part 3. Number 1. ARF Troopers, Advanced Recon Force. The Advanced Recon Force were the Republic's forward scouts, snipers, and spotters deployed in the thickest jungles and the harshest battlefields before the real fighting even began. They were light armored and highly mobile troopers designed for long-range movement on foot or bike. Unlike standard Phase 1 or Phase 2 units, ARF troopers ditched bulk for maneuverability. Their armor was thinner. Their helmets had angular visors giving them enhanced field vision without sacrificing cover, and their kits were customized for mobility and visibility with specialized visors to track movement across long distances. They were also trained in advanced survival skills. If an ARF trooper was ever cut off from the Grand Army of the Republic, he could survive alone in hostile environments for days or sometimes weeks without support. ARF troopers most commonly operate ATRTs, but in rare cases, they could also be trained to handle BARC speeders, especially when rapid deployment or high-speed flanking maneuvers were needed, because these things moved insanely fast and only the best could keep up. You see, they weren't just observers. They set ambushes, laid traps, and relayed data back to command to save battalions from walking into hell. But their missions were to isolate targets, disrupt supply lines, and to also mark enemy artillery for bombing runs. One of their most notable appearances came during the defense of Kamino, where ARF troopers used ATRT walkers to intercept waves of droid forces along the platforms, relaying intel, marking targets, and holding key positions under heavy fire. Obviously, they weren't made for head-on assaults, but in the right terrain like jungles, canyons, cities, ARF units could turn the battlefield into a trap, and while they were trained in stealth, many also doubled as snipers using their recon optics to deliver long-range shots with frightening accuracy. Number 2. Coastal Defender Troopers. They were a rare but vital Republic unit, first introduced in Battlefront 2. These troopers are equipped for amphibious assaults and shoreline defense and specialized in holding coastal fronts, beach fortifications, and watery terrain most units couldn't even navigate. Their armor was a reworked variant of Phase 2 sealed at the joints, with reinforced boots for gripping wet surfaces and a compact rebreather system built into the helmet. Some even carried modified DC-15s with salt-resistant plating because seawater eats through standard barrels faster than blaster fire. They weren't fast or flashy, but they held back droid dropships long enough for evacuations to finish. They locked down beachheads while orbital support tried to stabilize, and when the waves rose, they adapted using natural rock formations and trenches as makeshift bunkers. Some of their toughest deployments came on worlds like Kamino, where they held the domes from separatist boarding parties during the Battle of Kamino, or on Mon Cala, reinforcing the bridgeheads while the scuba units attacked below. They were the kind of clones who knew the job wasn't glamorous, but they showed up anyways. Number 3. Kelleran's Guard. We only saw them for a moment, but that moment really meant everything. If y'all can remember when Grogu was smuggled out of the Jedi Temple during Order 66, he wasn't alone. He had clone escorts, a specialized detachment under the protection of Kelleran Beck, the Jedi Master who helped him escape. They didn't wear any specialized armor or markings that made them stand out. Not to us actually, but to the Republic, these were the troopers trusted to defend a Jedi transport during the most dangerous night in galactic history. And the name Kelleran's Guard was given to these troopers by fans for obvious reasons. During Order 66, when blaster fire ripped through the Jedi Temple, Kelleran's Guard didn't freeze. They closed ranks, guided the Jedi through hidden lifts, bought time in the hangars, and gave their lives to shield the escape corridor. This showed their level to the Republic and most certainly Kellerman. It was about dying in position so that Grogu could live. That was the mission, and they fulfilled it. I don't know what legion they belonged to. I don't know if they volunteered or were assigned, but what I do know is from the way they moved is that these weren't ordinary clones. They were different. Number 4. Clone Shadow Troopers. In the Republic's vast arsenal of clone variants, Shadow Troopers were the ones nobody talked about, and that was exactly how they liked it. Because they were part of the stealth division of the Clone Army, low-key just like the ARF Troopers but better and more dangerous. They were outfitted for infiltration, sabotage, Black Ops missions the Senate didn't publicly acknowledge. Also, their armor was often jet black or muted gray, with specialized plating designed to absorb light and evade scanners. Some versions even had cloaking fields, making them nearly invisible to both droids and clones. But here's a surprising fact. That armor, It was one of the most expensive loadouts in the entire Grand Army of the Republic, outfitted with stealth tech that could rival bounty hunter gear. In fact, some Shadow Troopers were able to physically modify their appearance, shaping their silhouette to mimic Black Sun mercenaries during deep cover missions. Now most of their operations were classified, even to other clones. That's probably why they are never on the front lines. There are rumors that some worked with Jedi Shadows, performing secret missions involving dark side cults and separatist black sites. Others believe they were the precursors to the Purge Troopers, reconditioned and repainted under the Empire's reign. However, Shadow Troopers answered to Republic intelligence, not frontline commanders, making them dangerous, unpredictable, and in some cases, expendable. Moving on to number 5, Shock Snipers. Let's take the precision of a clone sniper and give him the authority to act as judge or executioner in the heart of Coruscant. That's the recreation of the Shock Snipers. While standard clone snipers specialized in battlefield eliminations, Shock Snipers were elite marksmen embedded within the Coruscant Guard, Republic's military police force tasked with protecting the Senate, the Jedi Temple, and other high-security installations. They were basically trained to monitor VIP events, eliminate threats without warning, and secure high-traffic zones in one of the most politically volatile cities in the galaxy. They wore red armor. Their long-range rifles were sound-dampened, tuned for non-lethal disarmament when needed, and upgraded with facial recognition targeting systems. So, whereas regular clone troopers snipers operated in war zones, Shock Snipers worked in crowds, in political arenas. They had to identify a threat, confirm it, and neutralize it all before the target even knew they were being watched, and because they were Coruscant Guard, their loyalty was absolute. During Order 66, they weren't on distant battlefields, they were right in the heart of the Republic. Number 6. Clone Anti-Troopers. After the rise of the Empire, the Kaminoans, we know as the original cloners, didn't take kindly to being sidelined. So in secret, they bred their own army for a single purpose: rebellion. Now these weren't like the old troopers. The anti-troopers were a genetic countermeasure, enhanced for combat against Imperial trained clones, and they knew standard protocols, tactics, even formations because they literally were clones too. And while some wore white and green armor, others bore no markings at all. Finally, they launched a full-scale uprising on Kamino, using advanced weapons, reconditioned walkers, and high-level tactics. And for a moment, the Empire panicked. While this was going on, it was the irony that got to me. Clones fighting clones in a war neither side chose. But like all rebellions against the Empire, it was crushed. Darth Vader himself arrived to suppress the revolt. The cloning facilities were destroyed, and the Kaminoan leadership was wiped out. Number 7. Clone Marines. These were the troopers who didn't fight on open fields. They fought in hallways, tight corridors, zero-gravity ambushes, and they sometimes hull breaches mid-fight if they had to. For a fact, they weren't like the average infantry clones. Clone Marines were trained specifically for boarding operations like storming enemy ships, disabling critical systems, and clearing every room until the entire vessel was under Republic control, or reduced to scrap. Their armor was modified Phase 2 gear with added magnetic grips, pressurized seals, and spacewalk attachments. Their helmets also came with rebreather valves, airtight visors, and enhanced HUDs for low-light interior combat. You see, sometimes they launched straight from drop pods, breaching hulls like living torpedoes. Other times, they defended against enemy boarding parties, turning Republic cruisers into brutal close-quarters war zones. And what set them apart wasn't just training, it was mentality. These guys were literally the reason Separatist commanders feared letting the fight get too close. Number 8. Anti-Air Trooper. While the Jedi led charges on the ground, Separatist bombers and Vulture droids swarmed above, raining destruction from the clouds. That's where anti-air clone troopers came in. These units specialized in ground-to-air warfare, trained specifically to counter aerial threats, clear landing zones, and create safe corridors for Republic air support. Their signature weapon was the RPS-6 rocket launcher, a shoulder-fired missile system that packed enough punch to drop starfighters mid-flight. Some even carried portable flak cannons or man-portable turrets, deployed during base defense missions. But this wasn't a game of blind shots. Anti-air units used tracking data, radar pings, and even force-fed coordinates from Jedi to land clean hits on fast-moving targets. Their timing had to be perfect. Fire too early and the shot would miss. fire too late, and they'd be vaporized. You'd find these troopers dug in at Kamino, Umbara, and Rylith, feeding off Separatist air assaults where orbital defenses were thin. And when Republic fleets were out of position or disabled, these clones were often the last line between victory and evacuation failure. They didn't get the glory, but they got the kill shots that made the difference. Because in the clone army, even the foot soldiers knew how to reach the skies. Number 9. Republic Navy Clone Officers. Republic Navy clone officers weren't built for frontline combat. They were tacticians, navigators, and fleet commanders, trained to oversee space warfare from the command decks of the Republic's massive Venator-class ships. Unlike infantry clones, they were trained in tactics, fleet movement, orbital command, and many served on Venator-class star destroyers, acting as executive officers, bridge commanders, and comms liaisons. These clones worked directly under Jedi generals like Obi-Wan Kenobi, Plo Koon, and Mace Windu, helping coordinate multi-system blockades, orbital bombardments, troop deployments across entire planetary surfaces. Their role was precise. Every hyperspace jump, every docking maneuver, every coordinated barrage were all calculated and executed by these officers. Their armor was less bulky, often marked with 1 ranking insignias and data comms embedded in the forearm or hat. So while their brothers charged into trenches, the clones stayed calm and made cold decisions in the heat of battle. Also, when a Jedi fell in battle, the chain of command passed to them. During Order 66, many of these officers had the most direct hand in executing Jedi betrayal across the stars, not with a rifle, but with a single comlink order. Number 10. Clone Engineers. Clone engineers were the tech backbone of the Grand Army, trained in battlefield repairs, fortifications, vehicle maintenance, and tech recovery. When they were deployed across the front lines, these troopers could repair damaged walkers, rewire comm systems, slice into security networks, or lay det packs under enemy shields, all while under fire. One mission on Annexus saw a squad pinned down with no comms, and their LAAT shot out of the sky. The engineer in the squad, CT-3558, rigged an uplink from a wrecked droid tank, called in air support, and rewired their turret for one last stand. They carried fusion cutters, explosive packs, and DC-15S carbines, not to mention enough tools to rebuild a base from rubble. And when the mission was on the brink, the engineers held it together. Literally. Number 11. Clone Flame Troopers. Clone flamethrower gunners are low-key similar to the Blaze Troopers, and they were the answer to entrenched droid nests, shielded bunkers, and enemy positions that refused to fall. These troopers wielded flamethrower gauntlets or backpack-mounted flame projectors, short-range, high-damage weapons designed for area denial and shock tactics. Their role was brutal, but necessary. They'd move in after the first wave softened enemy lines, unleashing torrents of fire into tunnels, caves, just to clear it out, leaving nothing behind. Their armor was typically bulkier to withstand heat, often featuring flame-resistant plating, rebreathers, and reinforced gauntlets. Some bore marks from burns or carbon scoring, proof they operated too close to the heat. Unlike Blaze Troopers, who appeared later in the Empire's reign, these were Republic units, trained during the Clone Wars for missions requiring total eradication of entrenched threats. Number 12. Clone Paratroopers. Literally most troopers dropped in with transports, but these ones, they just dropped from the sky without a ship or escort, just a parachute and a rifle. Clone paratroopers were airborne infantry designed for high-altitude insertions behind enemy lines. Their job wasn't to hold the line, it was to drop past it, land deep in hostile territory, and make chaos from the inside out. They wore modified Phase 2 armor fitted with an aerodynamic plate, re-entry thrusters, and a foldable parachute pack on their backs. Some used repulsor lift rigs for low-altitude jumps, others trusted old-school canopies, deploying seconds before impact. Look at Rylith, for example. The Separatists had anti-air defenses that shredded anything above 500 meters, so instead of flying in, paratroopers jumped in, straight through cloud cover under flak. They sometimes landed in shattered streets, cleared the artillery positions by hand, and held out until ATT walkers could break through the perimeter. Paratroopers weren't just soldiers, they were shock units, meant to destabilize the battlefield before the rest of the army arrived, and because they landed first, they usually bled first too.